So Ian was saying, as far as me, I'm still practicing as an advisor. People might not know that, but I still have my financial planning business. So he thought it would be a good idea if I kind of give like an example of what somebody would do if they came into, a windfall of money. Because we always talk about like a portfolio and to diversify, but it's like, what does that mean? Like, you know what I mean? So it's like, all right, this is like a sample of what I would, recommend a client to do. Now, once again, everybody's situation is different. This is just the general idea framework. If somebody like came into my office and I had a conversation, but I just wanted to kind of give you kind of framework of like a financial plan because we haven't really talked about it like that too much. So like a financial plan. So we picked the magical number $1 million. So and picked a 35-year-old, right? 35-year-old for $1 million. So if you have $1 million, say in a life insurance policy, that was you got the reason why I say the life insurance because it's tax free. So you'll get $1 million. There's no taxes that you have to pay. So out of that 1 million, the first thing that I would suggest somebody to do is pay off debt. The first thing. So the average American household has $5,700 of credit card debt. And depending on where you live in the country, that's even low. Like, you know what I mean? Like a lot of people have a lot higher than that. But I would take at least $10,000 and pay off credit, especially credit card debt. That would be like the first thing that I would do. Then I will put money in the savings, online savings account. So, $3,500 is the average American savings. 3,500. So we talk about stocks and we talk about, long-term investing. But me personally, I don't feel like anybody should invest before they have their credit card debt paid off, if it's reasonable, and savings. You got to learn to save. Cash is trash, very true. But you have to have some money in savings because what happens is that if you don't have money in savings, your investments become your savings account. So when your tire blows or you get sick or your dog needs to go to the veterinarian, all of these things, you got to have an emergency fund. You got to. So I'm a big proponent in having at least 6 months of living expenses in an emergency fund. So I will put $50,000 into an online savings account. Reason why I say online savings account, it has a higher interest rate, slightly higher than brick and mortar. And I like to separate. I don't want to have all my eggs in one basket. So like me, I bank with Chase, but I have my online savings with Capital One. So for a couple of different reasons. A, I just don't want to have all your eggs in one basket. And then B, psychologically, for me, it's a lot less tempting to transfer money from it's because you got to go to a whole different app and it takes like 3 days to take the money out. So it's like the whole point of the online savings is just out of sight, out of mind. You don't really want to even think about it. With Chase app, I go on there every day and I would see that on my Chase app if I had it on my online savings at Chase. So that's just something to think about. I will put 75,000 into a 529 plan. The reason why I say 75,000 if the person had kids, because now you can front load the 529 5 years. So that allows you to put a maximum amount. And whenever you get a lump sum like that, you always want to compounding interest. So the more money you can put in up front, the better. So I will front load it for 5 years. Now, when you front load it, you can't put more money in for 5 years, but at least you have that 75,000 right away that's working. And, depending on the state that you live in, you get a state tax deduction for 529 plans as well. So we talked about that. I would put 75,000 into an UTMA. The reason why the UTMA, not the 529, is that you want to diversify. 529 is great for college and education, but what if your kid doesn't want to go to college? Or what if, you know what I'm saying? Like anything can happen. So the UTMA just provides more flexibility. And, I would invest in something that we've talked about before, like a QQQ, an ETF that is broad range, get broad range exposure to the stock market, to a lot of the top tier companies. So you don't have to like risk it with penny stocks or something like that. It's your kid's future. You don't want to take too much risk with that. Life insurance is something that you definitely need to have. It's an important part of the financial planning process. So no matter how you go about it, whether you get term insurance, if you're 35, you can probably get $1 million term insurance policy for $600 a year. You're healthy. If you're in good shape, you get like $600 a year. Now, granted, you're not going to make any money off that because it's term and it only lasts like, let's say 20 years, but 20 years is still a long time. You know what I mean? So it's like, I personally think that $1 million is something that at the very least most people in today's society should try to aim for when it comes to life insurance size. Because if you think about it, you're taking care of a family or at least one child. $1 million is not really that much money in the grand scheme of things because it's like that has to last their whole life. That's replacing your earning potential. So if you make $100,000 a year, $1 million covers 10 years of your salary. So you look at it from that standpoint. So the life insurance is something that I definitely would encourage. Like I said, you can do term, you can do whole life. That's a whole conversation within itself. I would probably put $100,000 into a DIA. A DIA, a lot of people might not be familiar with what that is. That is called a deferred income annuity. So these are the DIAs are great plays, especially for retirement or long term. Like this is why when you see a lot of athletes get contracts, some of them they get DIAs. One of probably the most famous DIA in our recent time is Allen Iverson. So a lot of people are very familiar with that Reebok contract where I think it pays him like
the lifetime contract.
1.5 million, like starting like in 2 years, he gets like 1.5 million for the rest of his life. What they did with that was that it was part of his contract that a portion of the money that was paid to him went into a DIA, which is a deferred income annuity. So it sits in an annuity contract and it could be set up for 15, 20, 30, however long you want. But like, let's say you put $10 million into a DIA and then in 15 years, now that 10 million will pay a lifetime income of $1 million, right? So it's similar to like how like lottery, you can do the same thing with lottery. So that's great because now you defer. So it's like if you blow everything, and at least you know you got that coming to you every single year. So especially for lump sum people that have lump sum amounts of money, the D is definitely a great idea. After that, I would invest $400,000 into the market, a split between ETF and tech stocks, even some mutual funds. So like FKD and X, we talked about that. XLK, XLY, SMH, the regulars. Tech stocks, the obvious, Apple, Microsoft, Tesla, Amazon, things of that nature, because it's like you don't really necessarily have to try to hit home runs when you guarantee doubles. Like, you know what I'm saying? You guarantee the double. You're guaranteed to have 20 points every game. You don't need to try to score 50. So in my brain, those all make sense. They all have strong track records. They're all going to be here for a long time. The next 150,000, I would take more risk with if that's what you want to do. You can allocate that to stock options. You can allocate that to cryptocurrency, to future trading, to a little bit more like risky ETFs. Not risky, but like, like a TAN or IBB, if you want to look at like biotech or renewable energy, where I don't want to say that's risky because I believe in biotech and renewable energy, but it's a lot that goes into play with that, right? It's a lot of variables. There's a political standpoint, whether the drugs work for the biotech industry, it's still more volatile in the next 10 years than, a QQQ would be, or a Franklin Diamond fund. And then the next $140,000 I would have as alternative cash money. So you might want to, start a business, or you might want to invest in real estate, or, you might want to do a variety of different things outside of just regular investment. From that standpoint, I would allocate that. So that's my breakdown. That's my $1 million breakdown.
That's $1 million worth of gain.
Yeah, that's my.
What percentage of the deal does that give per year? Like, what's the average return?
Yeah, so it really depends because there's a few different factors on like how long you leave it in. It really depends on really how long you leave it in, and the interest rate that the insurance company pays. So we really have to run what's called like an illustration to actually give like a real spot on answer to that question. But usually it usually will grow in a fixed capacity and around like 3 to 4 to 5% annually rate of return on that type of product. So you can kind of compound that over the course of 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, something like that. And then that's what you'll get.
And as you guys come into these lump sums, you want safety. Like, you think that you would just throw it all to the wind and be like, hey, let me just put it all in one company. But if you lose it, and people don't think that financial ruin can hurt you, but like every recession, people die, commit suicide. People make bad investments, get hurt, like lose your career. So the more money you accumulate, the safer that you want to be. I know some of you are in a growth phase and you're looking to grow, but even with that, you still need to go look at what the drawdown of those companies are, because if a company is drawing down 28%, 30% every 2 years, is not a place that you want to. Because what if you hit it hard 2020, 2021, and next year you put your money into that risky asset set, and now you give up 2 years of your life and all this hard work and study. The more money you accumulate, please, like, go to safer vehicles that are available to you.
And you know what? Another thing too is that so you can really use that type of formula for any amount of money, right? If you have 100,000, if you have 50,000, right? Like, so what you do is you just lower the amount of money relative to how much money you have. So if you have 100,000, if you have $50,000, right? Obviously, you're not going to be able to invest $400,000 if you have $50,000, but you would do the same thing. So if you had 100,000, I wouldn't really recommend more than like 15% of that into the more riskier type of investments. So that would mean $15,000 will go into your crypto futures options bucket, right? And then you might put, $10,000 or $30,000 into your kid's college fund, or, so it's like if you got $10,000, you might invest $1,500 into Bitcoin, and then you might invest $3,000 into your kid's college fund. So the numbers really aren't the most important thing. Just wanted to use $1 million because that's a nice round number, and that's something that a lot of people aspire to become millionaires. So it's like, all right, you always hear these stories about these athletes, entertainers, and everybody, criticizes them. But it's like, all right, when you get there, because, you can get there too. It's not like it's impossible to get $1 million. So when you get there, you got to be prepared. Like the worst thing that can happen is that you get there and you're not prepared. And then you
have no plan. Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah.
What happens from here? If you don't have the plan,
you either going two things are gonna happen. You're gonna end up blowing it, or you're gonna be so scared that you're just gonna have it in your savings account.
Do anything.
Frightened, you be scared out your mind. The worst thing is to be scared with money. And it's like you have money, you waited your whole life to get money, you got it, and now you're scared to death because you don't want to lose it.
Hold on.
Yep, there's another game on the side of the fence once you acquire it. I'd rather you guys learn this now than when it's too late. And it's almost okay now if you have it in cash, but what about if they bump interest rates to 2.8 or 3%? Like, inflation is going to eat you alive.
My graduates from my school being Forbes, bag drop.
Bag drop.
A mic drop, bag drop.
Bag drop.